Story time on how I went on a Tinder date and my date tried to kill me. This story gets straight to the point, so let's get into it. Okay, so boom. I was 16 years old and I was lonely. All my friends had boyfriends, so I was always left out. But I didn't like anyone from school, so I went crazy on Tinder. Me and this guy both swiped, so we started talking. And after 2 weeks, he asked to meet up and go on a date. 2 weeks was a little fast, but again, I was lonely and I really wanted a stupid boyfriend. Don't be like me, y'all. But yeah, I went on the date and we met at a restaurant. And you guessed it, he was catfish. His picture, he was a tall, muscular guy. 6'3" with Rico Suave hair. But in person, he was bald, fat, and he was short. I was so pissed, I just wanted to turn around and leave, but he stood up to greet me, so I didn't want to be rude, so I just told myself I'll get a free meal. Y'all, during the day, I found out he was 40. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I went on a Tinder date and my date tried to kill me. Okay, so boom, like I said, I found out he was 40 and he was catfished. I had to get out of there. After dinner, I told him it was nice meeting him and that I was gonna text him once I got home. But of course, I was just gonna block him. But that's none of his business. Anyways, he asked me if I wanted him to walk me to my car. But I said, no, that's fine. At this point, I was being very standoffish because it was like, dude, get away from me. And I think he noticed. It was pretty late at night, probably like 10 p.m. So when we left the restaurant, no one was really around. At this point, I'm kind of getting a little scared, so I kind of walked to my car a little quickly, about to open my door. And this guy comes out of nowhere right behind me and covers me with his arms and squeezes me. He covers my mouth so I wouldn't scream, and he whispered in my ear saying I was leaving with him whether I liked it or not. I tried to wiggle myself out, but I couldn't. He was too strong. And things got real. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how I went on a Tinder date and my date tried to kill me. Okay, so boom, like I said, he comes up behind me and squeezes me with his arms and covers my mouth so I wouldn't scream. I tried to wiggle my way out, but I couldn't. He was too strong. But since his arms was around my upper body and my mouth, my hand where I was holding the keys was free, but my other arm was being squeezed by him. Thank God, all I needed was that one arm. And thank God I had pepper spray attached to my keys. So I took my pepper spray, sprayed him in his eyes, and he screamed. He let me go, and that's when I took my purse to reach for my taser. And yes, I tased him. Mama ain't raised no fool. I ran to my car, opened the door, and got home immediately. By the time I pulled out the parking lot, he was still on the floor. I got home and told my parents everything. They called the cops to the restaurant. He was gone by the time they got there. I just thank God he didn't know anything about me. Not my home, not my school, or personal life. All he knew was my first name. So if you're dating online, be careful. Story time on how my parents sold me to my uncle. Okay, so boom, let's get straight into it. Ever since I was a kid, everyone would compliment me on how beautiful I was. Literally got complimented everywhere me and my family went. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, it's important. My parents didn't see me as their beautiful child. My parents seen me as dollar signs. I was literally up for sale and my parents were bidding on who would pay the most to marry me. My mom started teaching me how to cook and clean and how to keep a man happy. One day while my mom was getting me ready and all dolled up for dinner, I told my mom I didn't want to marry anyone, and she flat out told me I didn't have a choice. Well, little did I know that exact night my mom and I was having this conversation, my uncle was downstairs waiting on me. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my parents sold me to my uncle. Okay, so boom, like I said, my mom was getting me all dolled up for dinner and my uncle was downstairs waiting on me. I didn't know this at the time, of course. My mom and I go downstairs and I hear my dad say, "There she is. Isn't she beautiful?" Then I looked at a man who just smiled and said, "I like it." I asked my mom who was that guy and she told me, "Shh, that's your father's brother, sweetie, no more talking." So we all sat down and had dinner and my uncle was just staring at me, smiling at me and looking at me up and down. He was literally studying me. My dad even looked at him for validation. I was so confused. Little did I know this wasn't just a dinner. It was a tryout, an audition, if you will. If I would be good enough for my uncle. He was actually rich and looking for a wife, and my dad was trying to sell me to him. Running out of time, like for part 3. Part 3 on how my parents sold me to my uncle. So like I said, we were having dinner and my dad was trying to sell me to my rich uncle. He was literally pitching a sale. She's beautiful, she cooks, she cleans, and she's very smart. And oh, she still has her V card. It was at that moment it hit me. I figured out what was going on. When my uncle left, my parents told me good job for being a good girl. I cried and told my parents I did not want to marry that man. I was 15 and he was like 40, but my parents told me I was going to marry him and I was going to like it. Well, fast forward a year later and they definitely sold me. And I lost my V card to my uncle on our wedding night. I hated it at first, but I kind of fell in love with him. And it didn't hurt that he was rich and I kind of lived stress-free. So yeah, my parents sold me and that sucks, but I ended up being okay with it. Lucky. And we all laugh about it now. Yeah, I know it's toxic and corrupt, but this is why it's an anonymous story. Story time on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. Okay, y'all, so today's story is my own. Okay, so boom. This took place on my senior year of high school when I was 17. In my school, everyone had to complete 100 hours of community service to graduate. I ended up doing community service at a daycare that was literally right next to my house. I was working with a lot of kids and they literally all loved me. I got many crazy stories about the time I was working at this daycare, y'all. Sheesh. But anyways, there was this one particular kid who was real quiet but super sweet. The teacher asked me to give him some one-on-one attention because he was a little behind. Everything went great and I could see he had potential, so my teacher wanted to introduce me to his parents. He told me his mom usually picks him up, so I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Well, a guy ended up picking him up and he looked kind of young, like my age, and he was 6'2", and ooh, height, y'all, that's my weakness. And of course, very handsome. As soon as he looked at me, he gave me a, ooh, you a snack look. I was so nervous, y'all. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. Okay, so boom, like I said, I seen a tall, handsome guy walk up and I got a little nervous. But whatever, I started talking to him about his son and he just smiled the whole time and gave me the look. This how he was looking at me, y'all. Like, please, if you're not ready for no action, don't give me that look. So I told him, your son is amazing and he's so sweet. And do you know what this guy told me? He told me, oh, I'm not his dad, I'm big bro. And I believed him. From that day forward, he was always coming to pick up his little brother, and we would always like flirt and stuff. Well, one day I was in the playground playing with the kids, waiting for all the parents to come pick up their children. I was sitting on a swing just like reading a book, and he came and sat next to me. This was the first time we were both kind of alone, like literally no teachers around because I was the only one watching the kids play. And this is the moment he asked me for my number. Y'all, we started talking and texting every night. This is when things got spicy, like for part 3. Part 3 on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. Okay, so boom, like I said, this was the first time we were finally alone, and this is when he asked me for my number. He knew what he was doing. He was playing his cards right, y'all, when I think about it. But anyways, from then on, we started texting and talking every night. This went on for like a good 2 weeks, y'all. I'm talking about I was sleeping on the phone with this man, still thinking that that was his little brother. He asked me how old I was, and I told him that I was 17, and then I asked him how old he was. This man told me he was 20. And then he told me that he already knew I was 17 because he asked one of the teachers already, but he wanted to make sure. So y'all, he literally knew the whole time that I was 17. Anyways, the truth was about to set his ass free. He asked me out on a date and I was like, hell yeah. So we planned a date for next Saturday. Well, Wednesday, a couple days before our date, I literally found out everything. Like for part 4. Part 4 on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. And this story is my own. Okay, so boom, like I said, we had a date planned for Saturday, but Wednesday, the truth was revealed. The teacher was like, damn, Leo's mom hasn't been here in a while. She used to always pick him up, but now I'm always seeing the dad pick him up. I wonder what's going on. And I was like, huh, dad, what, huh? I said, that's not Leo's dad, that's his brother. And then she looked at me confused and was like, no, that's his father. And I just stared at her like, what? And I said, how old is he? She was like 32. Y'all, my jaws dropped. He was actually single though. They were co-parenting, but he started picking up his son more literally because of me. I had the audacity to call him his little brother. From that day, I blocked him on everything and started hiding from him every time he came. So he thought I didn't work there anymore. He even asked about me. All the teachers had my back. Then eventually he stopped coming and the mom started picking up Leo. Thank God I didn't do nothing with him. These guys are weird. Story time on how my mom and dad did the nasty with my best friend. Okay, so boom. My best friend is 17, my mom is 34, and my dad is 38. Every day after school, my mom would pick me and my best friend up and take us to our home because my best friend's parents worked until late nights. My parents grew to love my best friend and she became part of the family. Well, one night I went to another friend's house to complete a homework project. And when I got back, my parents and my friend looked strange. They were all laughing and just really touchy with each other. Little strange, but I thought nothing of it and I pushed it to the side, and a month later I got a job. So now my mom would pick me and my best friend up from school, but this time she would drop me off at Chick-fil-A. And every night I got back, things got weirder and weirder. But once again, I just kept brushing it off. But little did I know that I was about to walk into some mess. Let's just say cops were called. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my mom and dad did the nasty with my best friend. Okay, so boom, like I said, things kept getting weird with my parents and my best friend, but I just kept brushing it off. Well, one day I was covering a shift at my job, Chick-fil-A, and when I got there, the person was there. Turns out that they were just playing a prank on me, but that's neither here nor there. So I called my mom to come pick me up because it was so early. My mom didn't answer, my best friend didn't answer, and my dad didn't answer, so I got worried. I had $40, so I ended up just taking an Uber home. Once I got there, I searched my whole house and there was no one there. But I found all 3 of their phones in my parents' room, and my mom's clothes was all over the place. So I called the cops. I start searching the house and I'm on the phone with the cops. I end up going to the back of the house where the spa is. Yeah, our house was pretty big. I make a right turn to the spa and find my dad, my mom, and my best friend doing the nasty in the water. Ciao, like for part 3. Part 3 on how my mom and dad did the nasty with my best friend. Okay, so boom, like I said, I make a right turn to the spa and I found my mom, my dad, and my best friend doing the nasty in the water. I literally screamed so hard and the cops asked me if I was okay. Then I said, sorry, there's no missing person, but there is underage nastiness going on. The police immediately came, arrested them, and they pressed charges. All 3 of those people I call my mom, dad, and best friend tried to apologize to me, but I definitely did not accept that. And I ended up moving into my granny's home. Now I'm 27 and I'm happily married. And I didn't invite none of them. I also have a 1-year-old baby boy and my mom is trying to see him. But nope, my grandparents are my only parents that I know. Just because you're blood doesn't make you family. Good riddance. Story time on how I slept with a ghost that haunted my house. And no, I'm not crazy. Okay, so boom, I live in a haunted house with my parents and my little brother. I'm 16 and we've been dealing with this haunting for the past 8 years. My parents tried to move houses, but they followed us and continued to haunt my family. I would wake up to doors being wide open, things around the house being moved, and my mom even said one of these ghosts pushed her while she was opening the fridge. My little brother is so scared he sleeps with my parents every night. Let's just say lots of crazy weird things was happening. Well, one night one of these ghosts got in my bed. I woke up and felt a presence right next to me. That presence was all up in my grill. Then it disappeared. This started happening every night and I kind of started expecting it. Well, one night something changed and the ghost had different plans. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I slept with a ghost that haunted my house. Okay, so boom, like I said, this night the ghost had different plans for me. I felt my sheets slightly slip down and pressure on my body. The pressure made my body feel so heavy, and then I started feeling some things. And by the time those things was over, I just realized I did the nasty with a ghost. You gotta work with me. TikTok won't let me explain those things. Anyways, I told my parents and they were not having it. They paid big money to fly someone in and have them blessed and clear the home from any hauntings. We tried this before, but it didn't work. My parents just finally went with the big guns and hired the expensive guy. Because at this point, things were going too far. So far, it looks like it worked because none of us felt any hauntings or presence from then. But since I'm now disturbed and violated by a ghost, I'm in therapy. And some people just call me crazy. But trust me, I know what went down. I felt it. Story time on how my boyfriend mom went from hating me to having a threesome with me and her son. Okay, so boom, we are jumping right in. One day I was with my boyfriend and we were on our way to the movies and he got a call from his mom. She told him that he needed to come home immediately because of something important at home. But I knew that every time she did this was because she really just wanted her son to stop hanging out with me because she hated my guts. Like she did not like me and I never knew why. Oh, but one day I figured it out. So one evening on the 1-month anniversary of me and my boyfriend, I was getting ready, doing what girls do, and I kind of expected you know what to happen, so I shaved my hoo-ha. I got all pretty and I headed over to my boyfriend's house. I knock on the door and his mom answers. His mom then tells me that I'm an hour early and he's still getting his haircut, so he's not home. I told her sorry, I must have gotten the times wrong, so I asked her if I can wait right here. She gave me a disgusted look and said whatever and slammed the door. Then she said she's been waiting for this moment, like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend mom went from hating me to having a threesome with me and her son. Okay, so boom, like I said, she closed the door and told me she's been waiting for this moment. She then says that I'm a fine young lady and she's been waiting to have me alone and that we have 1 hour before her son gets there. At that moment, it hit me. I knew exactly what was going on. And quite frankly, I was happy because his mom is hot. She led me to her room and then we started doing the nasty. By the way, she's 29 and I'm 17. Y'all wouldn't believe what happens next. My boyfriend walked through the door, caught us, but he wasn't shocked. He wasn't even mad. It was more like a jealous thing. Then he joined and we all started doing the nasty. I was literally shocked. I didn't believe what was happening. And this went on for 2 years. But then me and my boyfriend wanted to stop and just focus on each other and not his mom. She didn't like that at all. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how my boyfriend mom went from hating me to having a threesome with me and her son. Okay, so boom, like I said, after 2 years of me and my boyfriend dealing with his mom, we wanted to stop and just focus on each other. And oh, she didn't like that at all. She went right back to treating me horribly and hating my guts. And whenever she had a chance, she kept trying to break me and my boyfriend up. But it never worked. It looks like the only way to make her stop is to dabble back with her, but I'm not interested. Eventually, I'll move out with my boyfriend and we'll be all situated. So if you find out your boyfriend mom hates you, maybe she just wants to be with you. Story time on how I was kidnapped by my insane dad. Okay, so boom. This all began at the time when I was 8 years old. So my teacher was off for whatever reason, so we had a substitute teacher. The substitute teacher ended up being my dad, but I didn't know he was my dad at the time. But I always had a bad feeling when I was by him. One day after class, my dad asked me to stay to talk to him. But because I always had a bad feeling about him, I just made up an excuse and told him that I couldn't stay after class. And even when I gave him that excuse, he told me just give him a second, but again, he was weird, so I got the fuck out of there. Anyways, the next day at school we had free time and the whole time he was staring at me. It was actually almost my birthday and I was passing out invitations to my classmates. Well, somehow he got a hold of one of my invitations. My birthday went by and everything was fine until the next day. It was Sunday and my mom was at work and I was babysitting my 2 little sisters. And this is where it gets scary. Like for Part 2 on how I was kidnapped by my insane dad. Okay, so boom, like I said, it was Sunday and my mom was at work and I was babysitting my 2 little sisters. When I went to go get my sisters a snack, I heard something. I got scared and I immediately called my mom on our emergency phone. She looked at the cameras and there was nothing there, but I kept on hearing something. So I took my mom's old flip phone and I grabbed my 2 little sisters. I brought them to my room in our secret crawl place and I gave my older little sister the flip phone. I told my little sister to stay there and to not come out until I come back. And that if I didn't come back, to call the police and stay hidden until the police came. I grabbed my bat and went downstairs and guess who it was? My insane dad. So that's when he told me that he was my dad and that he had proof. So I went with him to get him away from my little sisters and that's when he threw me into his truck. I texted my sister the signal before he took my phone. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how I was kidnapped by my insane dad. Okay, so boom, like I said, my dad threw me into his truck. I was able to text my little sister to signal for help before he took my phone. About 20 minutes later, he stopped at a hotel. He again told me that I was his and that's why he would stare at me so much because he had to make sure. And then he said he had to make sure that I was his sacrifice, but I didn't understand what he was talking about. He was being very creepy. I ended up staying there with him for 6 days where he was burning me with cigarettes and he was abusing me every day. But thank God on the 6th day, the police was finally able to track me down. They were finally able to locate me and find me, and thank God they did because my dad was actually planning on RIPing me. I ran to my mom, cried, told her I loved her, but I also told her that I did it to keep my sisters safe. Now he's in jail for 10 years and he can't come within 100 feet of me or my family. My family moved to Florida with my stepdad and now I'm expecting my little brother. Trust your instincts, guys.
Okay guys, also make sure to subscribe to Story Bee Time. They are amazing influencers. I just used that video. I'm so sorry. Please don't copyright me. But make sure to go subscribe to them before me. Yeah, I'll subscribe right now. Love their channel. And yeah, make sure to go subscribe.